Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Say, have you noticed how seemingly eager the drive-bys are to report that Mrs. Clinton has pneumonia? They're not troubled by that at all. In fact, they're reporting that she got pneumonia with almost a sigh of relief. Now, there's two things going on. It looks like she's got much more than pneumonia, and everybody thinks that. So pneumonia is kind of, it's only pneumonia. It isn't that bad. The second thing, it allows them to continue to not report Hillary's deplorable comments, which Trump and Pence are trying to keep in the news cycle. Greetings, my friends, and welcome. It's great to have you here. Rush Limbaugh behind the golden EIB microphone. The telephone number is 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. I gave Mr. Snerdley a very quick tutorial on just one app that's receiving a major upgrade today when Apple drops iOS 10. Should be in about an hour if they hold true to the normal schedule that they use. The tutorial I gave him was in the Messages app. It's indescribable. I also did a tutorial, actually did a video conferencing tutorial with other staffers this morning, which took me about 20 minutes demoing it on my iPad. I'm telling you, folks, it's a phenomenal upgrade. The Photos app has a new feature called Memories, and it'll go through your photo library and choose. And all this is happening on your phone. It does not happen in the cloud. It's not a violation of your privacy. The feature goes through all of your photos and selects them by date, by location, by people. The facial recognition software in the Photos app will blow your mind. And it creates slideshow videos automatically, finds music, creates them in 30-second, 90-second lengths. You can pick. You can change the music. You can make it longer. You can create your own slideshows, but it does it automatically, and you can mail them, message them to people. It's just incredible. Now, I'm not going to spend much time on this today because there are other things, but I just wanted to, since I'm advocating that you do this, I need to remind you of one thing. If you upgrade to iOS 10 today or whenever you do it, do not panic when it seems like your battery life has gone to hell. Whenever you install a brand new operating system on your iPhone or iPad, it begins a whole new process of indexing data, all of your photos, the Spotlight search feature. Plus, you use the phone more when there's a new operating system. You're curious. So it has to kind of bake in. So your battery life will appear to be really hit the first time you use the phone or iPad after you install it. But then the next charge after your initial usage, you're going to get better battery life on iOS 10 than you got on iOS 9. It's really phenomenal. Now, before we get to the latest and greatest on the mystery illness that is handicapping Mrs. Clinton, I want to share with you this headline. This is from BuzzFeed today, because I know a lot of you are getting excited. And I know that it may be making you uncomfortable to get excited because the Democrat candidate appears to be less than 100%. And I know that a lot of people, because I've spoken to them, are feeling a little bit of a renewed hopefulness here, because it's abundantly clear that Mrs. Clinton is not well. And then we've got the stories being whispered about Cokie Roberts and a number of others about secret meetings to make contingency plans in case she can't go, in case she has to drop out. And then, of course, Bill Clinton came along and tried to help and made it even worse on Charlie Rose's show. This is phenomenal. I've always wondered, in the back of my mind, folks, I have really wondered if there isn't a small part of Bill Clinton that does not want her to become president for a host of psychological reasons. And this kind of mistake, this happens to her all the time. She's constantly falling on her face. Yeah, she falls down. She has these fainting spells. And You should get dehydrated all the time. And you know what? She won't drink any water. You want to get in trouble working for Hillary, you ask her to drink some water. She will bite your head off. She doesn't drink water. You know why? Because of what fish do in it. And then she doesn't want to touch it. And I'm telling you talk to anybody on her staff, and the worst thing you can do is suggest she drinks. So even after she falls on her face, fainting and stuff, which, I mean, it happens all the time. It isn't any big deal. That made it worse out there. And he's trying to help. Or is he? But look at this. While there's this renewed hopefulness, and it's guarded, I must admit, Republicans privately panic at terrifying prospect of Trump win. While all of this is going on the Democrat side, the Republican establishment and basically it's the consultants class, which is contained in the political class, they're getting worried that Trump might actually now win. No way, Jose. Little immigration lingo there. No way they want this to happen. The Clinton campaign's wobbly performance over the past 72 hours has set off a rash of behind-the-scenes hand-wringing among professional Republicans as they confront an unnerving new possibility. What if Trump actually wins? An unnerving new possibility. BuzzFeed, again, this source, tells us the Republican establishment class and the consultants, the elites, have never thought Trump was going to win no matter what happens. And now that Hillary has come down with pneumonia. By the way, that pronunciation is from the Beverly Hillbillies from way, way back in the 1960s. I had people sending me email. What, can't you say pneumonia? Yes, I can. It's pneumonia, just like they call their swimming pool a cement pond. Do you remember watching? The Beverly Hillbillies was classic. It was absolutely classic. Pneumonia. Anyway, so now, give you some pull quotes from this. For months, the prevailing wisdom within GOP political circles has been that Donald Trump stands little chance to win in November, and a large number of the party's consultants, fundraisers, and operatives privately preferred it that way. Though many of them are reluctant to say so in public, they argue that a Trump presidency would fracture their party, decimate the conservative movement, and wreak havoc on the global economy, not to mention their own industry. So the consultant class is panicked over a Trump win. And you know who these people are? They are the people who haven't gotten one thing correct this entire election. Everything they wanted, everything they thought would happen, everything they invested in, bombed out. And as you will hear in mere moments, it's all my fault, by the way. Jeb Bush is not the nominee because of me. So stated at an immigration forum at George Washington University Law Center. That's coming up. Another pull quote. It's terrifying, said one GOP consultant who, like others, spoke to BuzzFeed on condition of man. And of course they don't want anybody to know who they are. Yeah, we can't have people put their names to this. Why, there might be people who want to be mean to them out there. It's terrifying, said one GOP consultant. Trump's not qualified. It's a massive problem. I'm not a fan of Hillary Clinton, but at least I feel like some of those jobs that are required for president, she can do them. Holy! This goes to exactly what we were talking about last week, this whole idea, how in the world anybody on our side can do anything that was facilitate Hillary Clinton being elected. That's the end of the Republican Party, as it's known today. That's the end of everything that's the end of the country as they know it, for at least a generation, because of the Supreme Court alone. Another pull quote. I've heard a lot of conservatives voicing frustration like, how freaking hard is this, Hillary? The only reason I'm panicked these days, I'm losing faith in Hillary's ability to win with this easy-ass elections. This is a Republican, I think, blogger who doesn't like Trump and thinks that somebody half dead could beat him, and frustrated that Hillary is botching it. And here's another full quote. Another strategist in a similar situation said he recently found himself engaging in a wishful Google search. How late can you replace a major party nominee? I think Joe Biden to be a slam dunk, right? He mused in a tone that sounded almost affectionate. Meaning, these are Republicans worried that Hillary's going to bomb out because of her illness. Who can Republicans help the Democrats find who can win? That's what this pull quote means. Still time to get Biden, right? Biden could beat him. Wouldn't that be an amazing track for Biden's career, saving the free world by stopping Donald Trump? That is a Republican consultant. And they wonder why Republican base voters and a whole lot of other people just don't believe in them anymore. So the headline is Republicans privately panic at terrifying prospect of Trump win. There's nothing new in here, and it's not really, they're not privately panicking. Since they're talking to BuzzFeed, they're publicly panicking. They're just not putting their names to it. Look, there's a lot more in this piece. It prints out to almost 3 pages. But that's enough for the flavor of it. Now, to the audio soundbites quickly. Yesterday at the George Washington University Law Center, during the Migration Policy Institute's annual conference. You ever heard of that? Well, you've heard of George Washington University Law Center. Yeah, I never heard of the MPI either, the Migration Policy Institute. Not immigration, the migration. And it's their annual conference. They held a panel discussion about immigration and the Republican Party. And during the discussion, immigrant advocacy group America's Voice founder Frank Shary spoke and said this.
There is a tenacious, highly aggressive, very mobilized anti-immigrant wing, a nativist wing of the Republican Party. There's certain groups that we all know, but there's also the conservative infotainment folks, the talk radio folks, the Rush Limbaughs, that are really using this issue to both increase ratings and anger their listeners. And that's a very formidable force. And in the past 3 rounds of immigration reform that I've been a part of, each time the populist right has outdueled the pro-immigrant reformist Republican right. And that is going to have to change.
Okay, so again, here we are, folks, you and me. We are reactionaries. These Republicans have signed up with the Democrats, and they want amnesty, and they're calling it immigration reform. And they're agreeing with Democrats on this. And I don't know how this, I'm starting my 29th year now. And I guess it isn't going to be possible. These people persist in this really stupid notion and presumption that what I do here is dishonest. That what I do here is calculated to achieve rating success. I guess they just can't come to grips with the fact that the program is number one and popular because I'm who I am. I don't calculate anything here. I never, ever ask, oh my gosh, what does the audience want to hear? I better do that. I never do that. I never have done it. I've never stuck my finger in the wind to try to figure out which way the wind is blowing, the direction it's coming from, and getting in the way of it or going along with it. I've never done that. I just show up every day, tell you what I think. This is all rooted in principle. It's rooted not in racism. It's not rooted in color. It's rooted in culture. It's rooted in values. There isn't any assimilation taking place with this mass illegal immigration. That's a stark difference from the old days. Immigrants used to assimilate. They wanted to become Americans. They're not today. It's not necessary. We're becoming a balkanized society. We're splitting into groups, each group tendency to tend toward victimology and becoming dependent on the state and thus Democrat voters. The idea here that we're using this issue to increase ratings and anger Is that what they really think happens here? I would maintain that, yeah, some of you people are angry, but not at me. These 3 hours of the day are the 3 hours of the day when life seems normal in this country. And I would maintain that most of the people listening to this program are happy and of good cheer during the 3 hours this program is on. But to sit here once again, 28 years, to have these people say, hey, it's just, Limbaugh, he's just trying to tick people off, he's just trying to build up ratings, and we sort of find some way around that. They just, I don't even think they believe it. I think it's just what they say. I think that's what they say. I think they know the truth, and that's what scares them. I mean, if I were simply calculating and doing all of this to up my ratings, don't you think these people can come and make me a hell of an offer to join them? I mean, if that's all this was about, if that's really all I was doing was calculating and trying to build audience, these are very powerful people. They could come and offer me who knows what to get them to join me. They don't. Well, they've tried to eliminate it. It's another thing. But they don't do. Why do they not do that? Why do they not call me? Why do they not approach me and say, hey, you know what? We've got you join us. The world will be your oyster. They don't even try because they know that my position on this is principled. It isn't calculated. It's not the result of any kind of calculation that's designed to improve ratings or anger you. It is a couple more sound bites to go on this, but I got to get out of here for just a second. Stand by. I just got a bunch of emails commenting on the size of my show opening cigar. It is a big one. It's actually called a Lewinsky, Triple Robusto. Folks. Okay, back to the audio sound bites. This again from the George Washington University Law Center during the Migration Policy Institute's annual conference. Panel discussion about immigration and the Republican Party. And yesterday, Latino Partnership for Conservative Principles President Alfonso Aguilar spoke and had this to say.
Look, I'm a conservative. A lot of my conservative colleagues are saying, what are you doing? You're not going to support Mr. Trump? What is the alternative? Well, how can I support Mr. Trump, right? At the end, it's a question of issues and principles. On the Republican side, there are many who perhaps believe in immigration but have remained silent, afraid of angering Rush Limbaugh instead of being courageous.
These are Republicans, folks. Did you... one more time. Now that you know what this is, it's Alfonso Aguilar, who is the Latino Partnership for Conservative Principles president, and this is at a migration conference at George Washington University Law Center.
Look, I'm a conservative. A lot of my conservative colleagues are saying, what are you doing? You're not going to support Mr. Trump? What is the alternative? Well, how can I support Mr. Trump, right? At the end, it's a question of issues and principles. On the Republican side, there are many who perhaps believe in immigration but have remained silent, afraid of angering Rush Limbaugh instead of being courageous.
They're afraid of angering. How old is this? So no matter how you slice it, it's my fault. I am not principled. I'm calculating. I'm trying to get ratings while making you mad. By the way, how does that work? I'm trying to anger you and get my ratings up. And now I am intimidating other Republicans who would publicly support amnesty, except they're afraid of what I will say about them once I learn that they are for it. Well, immigration, I know, immigration amnesty didn't specify. Look, gotta go. Back in a sec here. Half my brain tied behind my back just to be fair with people. All the while having fun. Having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. One more soundbite from the George Washington University Law Center Migration Policy Institute Annual Conference. Panel discussion up next. Linda Chavez, the noted conservative columnist, author, activist. It's her turn to weigh in. And, of course, once again, the entire problem, the reason why Republicans cannot get amnesty passed is talk radio.
One of the most important things, I think, is to follow the money. There is a very well-funded network. It has become an issue that you can raise money on. And it has become an issue in which you can get listeners if you have a talk radio show, and your ratings will go up. It gets people mad. It gets people angry. When a bill comes up, Rush Limbaugh or Sean Hannity get on the airwaves, and you have a flood of calls into members of Congress. I think the best way for conservatives to be turned around on this, and I say this as a conservative, is for Donald Trump to have a humiliating defeat in November.
Okay, in order. I do not give out phone numbers. I do not urge people to send faxes, to send emails, or to call Washington. You know why? Because you're going to do it on your own. You don't need me to tell you to do it. I have done it one time to demonstrate to Howard Feynman of the drive-by media what would happen if I did it. We shut down the congressional switchboard. But I do not do it. And here is yet another so-called Linda Chavez, and I have ostensibly been on the same ideological team for 25 years. But here we come on immigration. Now, all of a sudden, I'm not principled. Once again, there's big money. There's big money behind me. Well-funded network. I don't get a dime from any immigration people. We don't take funding. In fact, I specifically refuse issue-oriented money. I refuse it. It's a policy I've had. We've made exceptions to it a couple of times, and I've been burned every time I've tried it. We do not do it. We sell advertising to American businesses, pure and simple. And they buy this program because we have a loyal audience. And my audience does not depend on the issues discussed here. What can these people not understand? What can they not get through their head? This is a good show. It has nothing to do with revving people up and making them mad. That's never been the forecast. That's never been the objective here. Now, it's going to happen. I mean, I have what is called in the media perfect polarization. That means there are people who hate me who will listen every day in order to seek and find reasons. They're leftists. They're liberals. But nobody's paying them to be here. Nobody's seeking them out. And this program doesn't trade in anger anyway. But anyway, you see, this is classic. These are the people unable to persuade anybody that they're on the right side of the issue. So they have these seminars where they get together amongst themselves and they wring their hands and they start blaming conservative media. And why do they blame conservative media? Because if it weren't for me, you mind-numbed robots, you wouldn't have had your minds poisoned in immigration. You know why? Because you're not smart enough to know whether it's good or bad on your own. So you need a Svengali like me on the radio revving you up every day. They looking at you the way the left does. Mind-numbed robots, incapable of independent thought. And once again, here are prominent so-called Republicans/conservatives indicating, demonstrating they have not the slightest understanding of who the people on their team are. They talk about you the way we talk about any other leftist audience. Mind-numbed robots, dumb, stupid, incapable of independent thought. You have to be guided through every issue. Look at how condescending this is. And these are people ostensibly on your side. These are Republicans. These are so-called conservatives. And even with it, they probably don't understand by these sound bites having been aired, I'm not making anybody mad at them. They're doing that themselves. They're the ones insulting people. They're the ones purposely misstating what happens on my program. I thought I was on these people's team all those years. I have learned, by the way, in the recent past years that that's not true. But for the longest time, I thought it was. So that's where we are. That's what the Republicans are doing. While Hillary Clinton is in deep doo-doo for a whole host of reasons, and while Donald Trump is starting to make tracks. He's starting to gain ground. His audiences are still huge. They're lively. There is enthusiasm out the wazoo. What are they doing? They're doing two things. They're strategizing on how to help the Democrats beat Trump, these Republican establishment types. And they're also having their hand-wringing seminars on trying to figure out who's ultimately to blame for them being unable to join the Democrats and get amnesty and comprehensive immigration reform passed. Isn't it? It's always somebody else's fault. I don't know, are they admitting that I am better at persuading you than they are? Or do they say, well, we don't have a chance. Limbaugh's got this massive audience, massive funding, massive microphone. We can't possibly compete with it. Yes, you could. It all depends on where you come down on issues. You people are just on the wrong side of your own party on this issue, and probably a whole host of others. So that's what's going on. Trump is surging among independent voters. The polling data at LA Times USC poll has Trump up 3 now. Hillary was, I think, up 75 electoral votes a week ago. She's up now 55 electoral votes. This all in projected polling data, of course. Point is, Trump's going in the right direction. He's gaining ground. She's losing ground. The Democrats are worried to death they're going to have to replace her. It's worse than pneumonia. And the way you know that is how easily the media talks about it. Pneumonia. I mean, they're talking about pneumonia like it's the common cold. Oh, yeah, everybody gets it. Oh, yeah, you got to be hydrated. Oh, yeah, you got to take care. Oh, yeah, you need some bed rest. Everybody doesn't get it. They don't get it like people get the common cold. They don't get it like people get the flu. But they're trying to pass it off as though it's just one of any number of usual viruses that bops around in the fall. And Mrs. Clinton's highly susceptible because she's constantly dehydrated and so forth. And it's so common that it happened to her many times before. Her husband has said so. The truth of the matter is they are panicking on the Democrat side. They don't know what's going on with her. Many of them don't. The people on the inside may. Did you hear why they didn't want to go to the ER on Sunday? I was exactly right about this. They didn't go to the ER because they didn't want doctors they don't know to find out what she's got. Because they don't trust doctors at a randomly chosen emergency room to be quiet. So they made a calculation. They've got a woman that practically fainted and collapsed and had a seizure, who was unable to get into a van by herself. They made a calculated decision to make her health secondary to other concerns. They could not take her to an emergency room. And by the way, this is probably not the first time for that. They didn't take her to the emergency room because they are still hiding whatever is wrong. If a trip to the emergency room would have documented pneumonia, big deal. They've already announced that, yet they didn't go to the ER. They didn't go to the ER because they don't trust the doctors there. Somebody in there they think would talk. Talk about what? If all she's got's pneumonia, what do they have to talk about? So there's clearly more than pneumonia. So they take her to Chelsea's ER, her daughter's apartment. But here's what it boils down to. They've got her sitting. She's not attending fundraisers. Supposed to be in L.A. Well, California yesterday and today. Can't go. They are quaking in their boots because they can't predict these episodes, these incidents, whatever they are. Do you think that if they had known that attending the 9/11 rally would end up as it did, you think they would have let her go? You think they would have set her out? No. They would have found some way of coming up with an excuse that everybody believed. It might have even been rooted in her not feeling well that day and contagious and not wanting to spread the disease. They could have come up with something. But they set her out there because it's 9/11. It's the 15th anniversary. You got to go. You're running for president. You got to go. And look what happened. They can't predict. And that means they can't control it. Not with medication. They can't control whatever it is that's wrong with her. And the poor woman has something seriously the matter. There's no doubt. And they are subordinating all of that. They are subordinating her health, and she may be in on the decision too. I mean, but everybody involved here is subordinating her health to the larger issue, which is the acquisition of power. It's not just the presidency. It's not just winning the election. It's what it means. It's the acquisition of power. And the fact that they can't predict these episodes and they can't stop them when they happen. Like the 4.5-minute coughing spasm episode in Cleveland. That means they're going to be quaking in their boots every time they send her out, including when the debates come up. Have you heard the latest? Does the name Bennett Omalu ring a bell? This will be an interesting little test market question here. Does anybody remember, or does anybody know, does the name Bennett Omalu, Dr. Bennett Omalu, ring a bell? Well, nobody here, it rings a bell. With nobody. Of course, I know who it is, and some of you out there do too. Stand by for this. Don't go away. Okay, going to get to the phones here pretty quickly. Dr. Bennett Omalu is the man who made the connection between concussions in NFL players and CTE, which is the brain damage that occurs from repeated blows to the head that's only diagnosable in an autopsy. You can't learn when somebody's got it when they're playing, when they're alive. Dr. Bennett Omalu. He's being hailed by left-wingers as the most brilliant neurosurgeon, neuroscientist ever. He's discovered what's making these guys go bonkers, and it's the NFL. And it's these rich owners who don't care about these people once they quit playing. Dr. Bennett, they made a movie about him. It starred Will Smith. Well, Dr. Bennett Omalu has weighed in with his theory on what's wrong with Hillary Clinton. You know what it is? Donald Trump poisoned her. Not kidding. Either Donald Trump or Vladimir Putin found a way to poison her. He tweeted this stuff out. I must advise the Clinton campaign to perform toxicologic analysis of Mrs. Clinton's blood. It is possible she is being poisoned. I do not trust Mr. Putin and Mr. Trump. With those two things, all are possible. And there are some, of course, on the left. This guy, well, he's brilliant. When they made a movie about it. Why, he discovered CTE. Why, he cares about people. He compares. Why, is a brilliant scientist. Oh, my God. And he thinks that Trump and Putin has poisoned people. With polonium-220 or 22, whatever it is, polonium, the derivative of uranium. And they did poison a guy, a former KGB agent, who's out ratting on Putin over in London. But this is Cookville. This is straight out of Cookville. You'd want to talk all these wacko conspiracy theories out there, supposedly held by the right wing. Yeah, Mrs. Clinton wasn't sick. There's nothing to see here. It's just these wacko conservatives and these madcap conspiracy theories they've got. And they all end up being validated. And now one of Mrs. Clinton's defenders come along, Bennett Omalu, tweeting that Trump has poisoned Hillary and found a way to do it somehow, and is suggesting she got a toxicological report on her blood. And there are people on the left who think this need to be looked into because this man has such incredible stature, such an incredible resume and pedigree. They made a movie about him, after all. Okay, to the phones. Robert, Naples, Florida, you're first today. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hello, sir.
Hi, thanks. How are you? I just wanted to say that, all these Republicans who are out there, criticizing you and saying that you're stirring up hate speech and all this, they're the ones that are missing the point. The reason why your ratings are so high is because, and why you have such a loyal base of followers and listeners, is because you are our voice. You're the voice of the people. This is what we believe. And they need to listen to you instead of criticizing you and find out who the people they're representing are and what they're supposed to be doing instead of just running amok.
You know what amazes me about these people? I'm going to sound incredibly naive here, and I will admit, even at my age, I can have the naivete of a first or second grader. My question is, why don't they want to become the voice of the people? They, the Republican leadership, the Republican establishment, people at this seminar. Why the disdain for people? Why don't they try to become the voice of the people? Well, the reason they don't is because they're at odds with the people. These are typical, and I'm surprised that Linda Chavez is in this group, but these are people that we normally associate with liberal establishment types, and that is the kind of people that look down on people that are not in the same economic class. I mean, there's a lot of classism going on here. There's a lot of arrogant conceit. These people think they're more educated, more sophisticated, they're wealthier, they're richer, and therefore they're better. And there is this general conceit and contempt at people, aimed at people. Why wouldn't they instead try to become, if the objective is to win, if the objective is to secure victory and gain power and then implement your ideas? Well, I know I'm answering my own question, but they are obviously standing in opposition to the vast majority of people. There was a Trump rally in Asheville, North Carolina last night, 7,000 people, huge for Asheville. And it was largely peaceful, just a couple of malcontents, and the AP is trying to make it look like the whole thing fell apart when it didn't. It's classic media obfuscation and distortion. Much more straight ahead, folks, back in a jiffy. Views expressed by the host documented to be almost always right 99.8% of the time. Don't doubt me. Great to have you here. Telephone number 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. I can tell by looking at the staff on the other side of the glass that iOS 10 has dropped and that you are now installing it on your iPhones in there. Yes, indeed. We have the Hillary illness stack and the accompanying sound bites that I want to get to next. But in addition, folks, I have a whole stack here of things that I didn't get to yesterday. Have nothing to do with the campaign, and there's some things I've added to it today. Let me just run through the headlines to give you an idea of what I hope to get to before the program ends. Just in from USA Today, the Democrat Party is becoming more diverse, less religious, and better educated at a faster pace than the country itself, according to a Pew Center survey. The headline, Democrats changing more rapidly than Republicans. They are becoming more diverse, they're becoming less religious, and better educated at a faster pace than the country itself. Meanwhile, the opposite is true for the Republican Party. Now, you might be thinking, boy, this is media bias. How can that be? Well, before you have that reaction, let me remind you of something. You know as well as I do that the left has been engaged in a very systematic effort to keep Christians and Christianity out of college. They have done everything they can to take Christianity out of the mainstream of American life. They have focused their attention of government as Santa Claus to this minority group, that every minority group they can find. You look at the enrollment at major universities, institutions of higher learning, and if you've forgotten, let me remind you, the number of men enrolling in college and universities has been declining for 10 years. The number of people going to college, the number of people coming out of there with degrees and so forth, and this massive student debt, the Democrat Party is owning more and more of them. Here's a pull quote from this story. The number of Democrat and Democrat-leaning registered voters who have obtained at least a college degree went from 21% in 1992 to 37% today. That's a 16% increase. Meanwhile, the number of Republicans with at least a college degree has increased by just 3% in the same time period. 1992, 28% of Republican and Republican-leaning voters had at least a college degree. Today, the share is 31%. So the Democrat number, 37% who have a college degree, vote Democrat or lean that way, 31% Republicans. American voters in general who have at least a college degree has gone up 10 points since 1992, 23 to 33%. Well, you might be, yeah, man, that's right. But who's running the colleges, folks? I mean, what are they're not citadels of learning. They're centers for indoctrination in many examples today. So I think this establishes that the left's efforts to commandeer as much of education as they can and to shame and do it whatever they can to convince mainstream Republicans/Christians to not even attend has shown some success. Over at 538. Now, a couple of things here. 538, that's the Nate Silver blog. This is the wonderkin that the Democrats relied on in 2012. This is the guy that predicts candidates' chances of winning the presidency or whatever election they're in by percentage. And what he does, he supposedly has this proprietary, known only to him method of mass poll analysis. Supposedly, Nate Silver has a way of taking every poll out there and putting them into his formula and coming up with meanings that other people haven't found a way to get. The story here is that young millennials, in polling data, young millennials love Obama. But they're not buying what Hillary is selling. Hillary is having a tough time with them. And there's something else. This guy was just hired. Nate Silver was just hired by the GOP. I think it was the GOP. I have to find this. It was just he did a presentation, a seminar to Republican moneyed interests over the likelihood of their agenda being advanced and what progress there is to report on that front. So he is rapidly becoming an authority within the upper level reaches of the establishment. And when that happens, he's going to have the kind of image and reputation that whatever he says is going to be considered gospel. If he's already being asked to present to the upper echelon of the wealthy within the establishment, that's quite a coup for Nate Silver. So he continues to climb his own individual ladder of success. This story from his own website details that the race, the presidential election, continues to tighten. Some voters younger than 25 might go back to their Democrat roots. Right now, they might feel like they can cast a protest vote for a third-party candidate without contributing to a Trump victory. They just don't like Hillary. Well, they're not crazy about Trump either, don't misunderstand. But they're not automatically going to Hillary, which means they're gettable. I think they're gettable. We'll find out. National Football League. Tell me what you think of this. We just learned, by the way. Oh, this is... Well, no, I didn't. You didn't learn this because I didn't get a chance to pass it on to you yesterday. The first thing is that the ratings for opening night, the National Football League, are down. Yes, here it is. Ratings for the NFL are down from a year ago. And in some cases, the original reporting in the overnights before the entire national rating sample had been calculated, down like 11%. This is the Sunday night game, not Thursday. The Sunday night game between the Garoppolos and the Arizona Cardinals, down 11% over the same game a year ago. Not panic time by any stretch, but nobody expected this. Everybody was expecting the NFL just to continue to grow. I wasn't. Don't misunderstand. but I mean everybody involved in it. There's nothing stopping us. There's nothing out there on TV to watch that's any better. We still have all the ingredients. We have fresh, we have unscripted, we have drama, we have an unknown ending. We've got everything it takes. We got stars. Yeah, they're sitting their stars down. They're suspending their stars like Brady. I will never understand that. But if you look at the NFL as a TV show, have you ever heard of a TV show, other than Charlie Sheen, have you ever heard of a TV series suspending its star for anything? Now, I know the NFL's bigger than any one player. Don't misunderstand. But, man, they were so eager to suspend Brady. They spent 2 seasons trying to suspend Brady. And so Brady's sitting for 4 weeks. And their numbers are down. People thought, you know what? With Garoppolo, they're going to be watching in droves just to see how the replacement does. And then when Brady comes back in week 5 against Cleveland, man, those ratings are going to be off the charts. Well, it's not working out that way. The next thing that we learned, the NFL's ratings with women have taken a big hit. Despite Pink October. So the overall numbers are down opening night compared to last year, 11 or 12%. And the general interest for the game among women is declining. Now, you and I know what the problem is. We can tell them. If they called here and say, well, why do you think we have a problem here, Mr. Limbaugh? I can tell them. I can tell them in under 5 minutes. Well, you may have heard, you may not have heard. Let me tell you in case you didn't hear. A player wanted to wear a special set of cleats this past Sunday, 2 days ago, shoes, to honor 9/11. And the league said, there's no way, pal. We're not giving you a waiver. The NFL is got a very strict uniform clause. Shirt tails have to be tucked in. Have you noticed, by the way, if you watch the NFL, pay any attention, have you noticed that NFL jerseys no longer tuck in? They are tailored, they're cut so that they end right at where the pants, the waist is. It's because players hate tucking in their jerseys. An NFL jersey, I happen to know this, an NFL jersey, when you put it on over shoulder pads, will go down to below mid-thigh. That's how big it is because they have to stay tucked in by rule with all that contact and all that maneuvering around. So the players have gotten together with the equipment guys, and they tailor these jerseys so they don't have to tuck them in. It looks like they're tucked in unless they're wearing undershirts, like T-shirts that are longer than the jersey, which you are starting to see. The NFL does not like this. This is a violation of the uniform policy. You can't put your own sticker. You can't use your own headband. You can't wear your own decal on a helmet. You can't. It ever pre-approved. This guy wanted to wear. Well, Peyton Manning wanted to honor Johnny Unitas by wearing shoes that were black high-top shoes. And he asked the league for permission. They turned him down. Nope, you've got to wear the shoes the rest of the team wears, which I think in the day were white. So they're very strict about it. Well, the NFL has relented. And they're going to allow, on week 13, they're going to allow every player to make his own social statement somewhere on his uniform. They're going to allow a player to wear special cleats, special shoes. They're going to allow players to use special sweatbands, wristbands, promoting whatever cause that's important to them. What do you think that's going to do for ratings? The National Football League is going to let players speak their minds with their feet. But being the NFL, it's going to be in a tightly scheduled and pre-approved way. Sports Illustrated reporting the league is preparing to set aside Week 13 for players to promote a charitable cause of their choice on their shoes and on their equipment. So Week 13, the NFL is going to look like a social and cause-oriented billboard. Just keep in mind, NFL viewership slipping among females of most demographics. Among white women, the NFL lost quite a bit of steam. And yet, look at all the efforts they're making to to attract women to the game and hold them. That's with Pink October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So that's out there. It's deteriorating is the point. Everything about it is deteriorating. Last night, the second game, the 49ers and the Rams. What was the focal point of the game last night? What was Kaepernick going to do? Was Kaepernick going to take a knee? And would any other players join Kaepernick? And one other player did, Eric Reed. So they took a knee. They normally don't televise the anthem of these games, but they did last night so they could televise Kaepernick's protest. Remember when I worked at ESPN and they said, we do not permit politics here. You violated a public trust with us, which, by the way, there never was a promise. They never extracted a guarantee from me not to talk politics. But they said after the fact that they did and that I'd violated it. But I hadn't. Well, that's out the window now because ESPN is all politics all the time. Politics even occurs before sports on ESPN now. And they're losing subscribers left and right. They're losing cable subscribers in huge numbers. It's phenomenal what's happening to ESPN. And the NFL is losing audience. Meanwhile, the left is happy because they got more people going to college, and their people are getting smarter than the rest of America, and they're more progressive. They're happy for all of these selfish reasons that are not responsible for anything really improving. John Kerry State Department. Ready for this? You know, John Kerry has a couple of daughters. At one time, Ben Affleck had a crush on one of them. That was back during the Democrat convention in 2004 when Kerry and his swiftboat buddies reconquered the Boston Harbor. Now, they sailed across Boston Harbor to the convention hall, replicating, I don't know what they were doing. And Ben Affleck was on TV a lot during that convention, just going on and on and on about what a dreamboat Kerry's daughter was. I forget which one. Ready for this? More than $9 million of Department of State money has been funneled through the Peace Corps to a nonprofit foundation started and run by John Kerry's daughter. What is it, folks, about the children of ranking Democrats that seemingly makes it impossible for them to earn their own way in life? What is it about children of ranking Democrats, politicians, high office holders, cabinet appointees? What is it about their kids that seemingly makes it impossible for them to make their own way in life? So here's John Kerry's daughter getting $9 million for a nonprofit that she runs. We know what happens to these things. Funneled through the Peace Corps. They think they're hiding the money. You think your daughter could get $9 million to a nonprofit she set up, run through the Peace Corps? Well, no, Rush. No, of course we don't. But we don't decry these kind of connections. I mean, that's exactly what these kind of connections are for. Any parent who could would do it. Not supposed to happen at the national leadership level. That's the express point of our way of government. Government is not better. Government does not get this. This is not supposed to happen. But I find it just incredible how many children of rich Democrats seemingly can't get jobs and make their own way in life. They still have to feed off whatever mom and dad can steer their way from the federal budget. It's incredible. Okay, back to the phones. We go to Washington, Oklahoma. Don, great to have you on the program, sir. Hello.
Good afternoon, Rush. Maha Rashi, Mega 18-wheeler dittos.
Thank you, sir, very much. Great to have you here with us.
I just called because you were speaking earlier about the conservatives that were trying to come up with a reason not to vote for Trump. And you had that one gentleman, the Hispanic gentleman, I don't remember his name.
You're talking about an audio soundbite that I played?
Yes, sir.
That would be Alfonso Aguilar.
Ah, thank you. Okay, well, when he came out and said that he couldn't vote for Donald Trump because Donald Trump doesn't believe in immigration, this man's a fraud. If he's a conservative, so is Mayor Bloomberg. Neither of them are very good, convincing Republicans because he says that Donald Trump is against immigration. Donald Trump never said he was against immigration. All he's against is illegal immigration.
All right. The reason I'm pausing, I'm not sure we're talking about the same thing. The guy you're thinking does not talk about immigration. He talks about me and Trump and how he can't support him, even though he's a conservative. There was another guy who blamed me for. I'm not sure we're talking about the same guy. I'll have to look at these sound bites, but.
Yeah, I think if you go back to the soundbite, that was when I dialed, was when he was on. Because,
but your point is that Trump is not against immigration. It's only illegal immigration. He just wants to enforce the law. That's your point, right?
That's right. And I can't understand how anybody could object to that.
Well, yeah, it's because this really isn't an immigration issue to these people. It's the umbrella under which the change they want takes place. What we're really talking about here is amnesty for the current crop of illegals here. And they do not want to increase border security. So it's their overall attitude on there's no difference to them, illegal or legal immigration. It's all immigration, and we all need to be for it because this is what made America great. And they're not willing to make the distinction. Anybody that does make the distinction, they think is missing the point. Anyway, quick time out here, folks. We'll be back and continue right after this. Don't go away. America's real anchorman, America's truth detector, and doctor of democracy. Rush Limbaugh here on the cutting edge, and we go to Pam in Asheville, North Carolina. Great to have you on the program. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Rush. Say, my husband and I are both Trump supporters, so I guess one of the two of us is peeking out from the basket of deplorables, eh?
Let me ask you a question before you go on. Sure. By the way, deplorables, the T-shirts are ready. We've got them at the EIB store. I've been meaning to mention that. We just ran in the commercial break. We've a spot for the Never Hillary shirts. The deplorable, I'm a Hillary deplorable T-shirts are now in the EIB store. They're part of the Never Hillary collection. They're at rushlimbaugh.com. I mean, and we've stocked up. These things are going to sell like new iPhones out there. And we are ready for you. rushlimbaugh.com. Now, I need to ask, you live in Asheville, right?
Yes, just outside of town.
Okay, most of the people in Asheville are communists. They're well, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but they're leftists. Are you?
No. You're
not. Okay, so
no.
you're in the minority of the population. You went to the Trump rally last night, is that right?
We did, my husband and I and our son.
Okay, and from what I heard, I just want you to confirm that what I found was true, that the arena, or the venue, was full, and that it holds about 7,000 people. Is that close?
Yes, that's accurate, yes.
Okay, fine, because what I have here, I've got two stories. I've got an ABC News story, and I've got an AP story. And what they report, they don't report the size of the crowd. They don't report how uplifting and exciting and positive the crowd was. They don't report how good Trump was. They focus on a skirmish that happened, and they're trying to make it look like a bunch of Trump supporters were picking on Trump protesters, and that the whole thing descended into a giant fight. ABC and the AP are both trying to report that as the primary event that happened at Trump rally. Is that what you saw?
They're nuts. No. So it was very interesting because there was a sea of protesters, and we did have to pass through the sea, so shoulder to shoulder, face to face, to get into the event. There were some protesters that got in. Here's a thing that really amazed me. There were F-bombs everywhere. They were all over the protesters' signs. As protesters in the rally got up and made their point of view known and were escorted out, they prominently gave the finger to us very, very visibly. There was a sign that was smuggled in somehow, and I don't know what sign says. Haven't been able to find it. We couldn't see it, but it had to be pretty vile. And we were just there having a good time. And so, like I said, there were absolutely F-bombs everywhere.
How old is your son?
He is 14, so that was not good. On our way out, though, the protesters with the signs, here's what they chanted: "Love trumps hate. Love trumps hate."
That's not new. They have been that's been a popular refrain of anti-Trump protesters for months now, and I think it kind of backfires on them. They're trying to say to watch
what was going on there. We just peacefully went to a Trump rally. I'm very concerned that the things Hillary is saying are cultivating an incredible prejudice among people. I mean, I think that most voters on both sides are good-hearted people who love their country and care of their country, but we encountered just rabid protesters who believe that we are awful people and terrible-hearted.
Pam,
they really believe that.
Look, you're mostly right when you say that Hillary is cultivating that kind of person, but it's really not her. They existed long before Hillary, and they would be there no matter who the Democrat nominee was. Those are people largely paid. They are bought and paid for by activists like George Soros. George Soros funds, he invests in paid protest groups, and their express purpose is to go out and disrupt every Trump rally they can. And even if they're not acolytes for Hillary, and I'm not trying to let her off the hook in terms of being responsible for cultivating the hate, because I think the left owns hate. I think they promote it. I think they cultivate it. I think they use it. I think most of the hate in this country is actually found on the left. You're not a hater. I mean, you went to this rally just wanting to be part of it. You wanted to see what it was. You hoped it was fun. You hoped it was good. You hoped Trump was good, I'm sure. You didn't go there to hate on anybody or to hate on anything, and hate is not what attracted you to it. But the people that protested you and were writing and shouting all those F-bombs, obsessed with it.
They were, and the protesters were very peacefully and courteously escorted out each time. One of the things I loved is there was a point at which they went and got a bunch of Trump supporters that hadn't been able to get into the rally, and they escorted them into the places that were vacated by the protesters. And it was inside the building, it was all incredibly peaceful. Outside the building, I saw Trump supporters, some of them. Long story, but my son and I got stuck in the sea of protesters. We got separated from husband, and we were stuck there for about an hour. And so we witnessed a lot. And there were a few Trump supporters that tried to engage protesters in meaningful conversation.
Was this your first encounter with protesters up close like this?
Yes.
Yeah. I can tell. Nothing wrong with it. I can just tell. You read about them, and you may see them make noise at a Trump rally you're watching on TV, and you see them escorted out. And you think, okay, fine and dandy. But here you came face to face with them, and it totally changes the way you see them, and it totally changes the impact they have on you. I can tell by listening to you. You think this was atrocious. You think this was you think it was outstandingly bad. It was egregious. You think it was harmful. I can hear all this in your voice.
Well, and I guess one thing that concerns me is that it's as if democracy is being lost. I mean, the country stands for freedom to disagree, freedom to hold your own views, and the message that's communicated is if you disagree with me, you're full of hate and all these various isms.
And you are subject to potential violence. You are subject to threat. We're going to threaten you. We're going to intimidate you. We're going to bully you if you don't agree with us. We're going to shut you up. We're going to send you packing. And Pam, look, all of these wonderful statements that we keep hearing in association with this Kaepernick protest of the anthem. America means that you have the right to say whatever you want. You can voice whatever opinion. It's a bunch of BS. This is the kind of thing that losers tell themselves when they don't know how to deal with the protesters you're encountering. The protesters that you encounter do not respect your right to think what you think. They don't respect your right to show up and say what you want to say, support you want to support. They show up to shut you down. There is none of this respect for the great concepts of dissent. If you dissent from them, with them, if you violate what they want, they're going to come after you or make you think they're going to come after you one way or the other. And we get caught up in these flowery little bromides of America, freedom of speech. I will defend to the death your right to say it, even though I disagree with you. That may describe some people in the way they look at it, but not the people you encountered last night. They're not democratic. They're not interested in the Democrat process at all. They don't trust it. If they lose this election, what you saw last night is romper room compared to what they're going to do. And I think the reason I asked you if this is the first time that you've actually encountered it face to face, because it changes you. It's one thing to see these people on TV. You're watching a Trump rally anywhere, and you'll see a disruption, and they may show a protester or two being hauled out of there. But you don't see the confrontations. You don't see these people bullying, shouting all these F-bombs, making threats. You don't see all that. That's not shown. All you see is a couple of them taken out, and people, isn't that wonderful? We've got the fine art of dissent being practiced here. Isn't it just a beautiful thing to see? But you encounter it face to face like you did, and it changes the way you see it. And it makes you start questioning which I totally understand. This is why I don't understand all this tolerance for these people. And I'm not saying be impolite to them or any of that, but the idea that they've got the right to come in and disrupt something because this is America, when did all this become a suicide pact? When does somebody's freedom of speech permit them to come in and totally destroy your rally? When does the Constitution permit somebody to come in and totally destroy the country? At what point do people stand, wait a minute, we're not engaged in a suicide pact here by extending to you your freedom? But I'm glad you saw it up close and personal, because it changes your perception of it the moment you see it. And by the way, I'm serious. The AP story here and the ABC story do not talk about the Trump. Like Trump, I've got some sound bites I'm going to play coming up at the break. He brought some people up that Hillary calls deplorable. He wanted them to come up and speak for themselves. It was a typically good Trump rally with lots of energy, a full house. And there were enough protesters to give the media the opportunity to focus on the protests as the main thing that apparently happened. If you weren't there and didn't see it, that's all you would think happened. You'd think Trump had a rally and half or more of the people shut it down because he's hated and reviled and filled with hate. And that's what the media is trying to do. It's how they carry Hillary's water. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton couldn't draw 1,000 people to an event like this. And the people that protest Hillary don't care enough about it to show up and do that. They'll just be satisfied voting against her. Anyway, Pam, I'm grateful that you called. I appreciate the eyewitness account. We will be back after this with much more, so don't go away, folks. Okay, here we go. Last night, Asheville, North Carolina, 7,000 people. The event sold out. I'm told by people who live in North Carolina that it's very unusual to have this many people at anything like this in Asheville. Asheville, by the way, the Vanderbilt Mansion is there. One of the hugest. What's the name of the place? They have a mental block. Asheville is not the town that they had to build in order to build the mansion, but it's close. Oh, I'm having a mental block. I've been there. I didn't know it was a communist outpost when I went in there. This is back in the mid-'90s that I was there. But it's supposedly really, really unusual to have this kind of a crowd for anything there. So that's the setup. We have 2 bites here as Trump invited deplorables on stage to respond to Hillary.
These are not deplorable people, that I can tell you. Come on over. My wife and I represent non-deplorable people.
I am probably a lot of things. Deplorable is not one of them, I assure you. We are going to make America great again, and Hillary needs to take a nap.
After all the horrible scandals that Hillary Clinton's been involved in, and then she has the gall to call us deplorable. It's unbelievable.
It is. Don't forget, our I'm Not a Deplorable T-shirt is now available at rushlimbaugh.com in the EIB store, part of the Never Hillary collection. It's a blue T-shirt, says, I am a deplorable on the front. On the back, it says Never Hillary. And they are up and running now. After these people spoke, Trump then closed it up.
After months of hiding from the press, Hillary Clinton came out and finally told the world how she feels about the people of this country. She talks about people like they're objects, not human beings. She said half of our supporters are irredeemable and not American, and describes the other half as having run out of options. Hillary Clinton spoke with hatred in her heart for these working class Americans. Absolute hatred in her heart. She looks down on the people who cook her meals, drive her cars, and dig the coal that power her electricity. Her goal is simple: to bully the American voter out of voting for change.
Now, what's going on today in Philadelphia? I think Obama and Biden and Tim Kaine are all campaigning in Philadelphia for Hillary. Isn't it nice to know, ladies, so many men can step up and take Hillary's place and keep her relevant while she is unable to show up? Isn't that a beautiful thing? Why, it takes 3 of these guys to show up and do the job that Hillary ostensibly would do on her own. What does that say? It takes Obama, it takes Biden, it takes Tim Kaine. By the way, here's Nicole Wallace, no friend of Trump's, no friend of Sarah Palin's. Nicole Wallace in the George W. Bush Communications Office on the Today Show today. Savannah Guthrie said, hey, Nicole, you might say that the health headlines aren't good for Hillary, but in some ways it actually overlooked this issue of her comment on Friday night where she called half of Trump supporters deplorable. Now, is this a larger, longer-term problem for her?
The road to the White House does not wind its way toward attacking someone's supporters. She gave a speech 10 days before she made that. I mean, I think this is what she thinks of the segment of the Trump base that we've all learned this new word, the alt-right, that sort of legitimizes white supremacy. So she has made a more focused case. But lumping in half of his supporters, Trump did a really smart thing with it yesterday. He put Americans on stage. He put his supporters, who certainly didn't look deplorable at all.
All right, well, how about that? That's a great admission. Trump actually put some of his supporters up there, didn't look deplorable at all. This alt-right business and white supremacy, have you noticed how casually that has just snuck in there and seems to have established a life of its own, as though it's actual fact and real that a segment of Trump supporters are white supremacists? Now, that's the folly that, all of these leftists accuse people who oppose amnesty and want to stop illegal immigration for racial reasons. Missing the point entirely, as usual, which they know. They're just trying to smear. Again, back with more. I take it back. All 3 are not in Philadelphia. Obama, Biden, and Kaine are all campaigning for Hillary today. It's Obama that's in Philadelphia. And the name of the Vanderbilt place in Asheville is the Biltmore Estate. That's what I was having a mental block on. Largest, it wasn't at one time anyway, largest private home in the country. Back with our final busy broadcast hour in mere moments. Hi, folks, and welcome back. It is great to have you here. Rush Limbaugh on the cutting edge with half my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair. Our telephone number, if you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882. You send an email, it's lrushbo@eibnet.us. And that's right, that is a new email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. And a reminder, our T-shirts have been upgraded and are now available at the EIB store. I am a deplorable. I'm a Hillary deplorable. And on the back it says Never Hillary. You'll find it at the Never Hillary Collection, the EIB store at rushlimbaugh.com. You should be able to find it there at the very top of the login page at rushlimbaugh.com when you go there. Now, just to illustrate what I was talking about the Trump rally in Asheville, North Carolina last night. First is ABC News. Man at Trump rally hits 2 protesters in the head, is the headline. This is not the story. It's what the drive-bys want you to think is the story. A man in the audience of a Trump rally in North Carolina Monday evening hit 2 male protesters in the head as they were being escorted out. Further details not immediately available. Earlier, Trump invited a group of his supporters to join him on stage to speak out against Hillary Clinton's claim that half of those backing Trump belong in a basket of deplorables. And then the story quotes the people that Trump called up, sound bites which we just played for you. Later, during the Trump speech, a member of the audience appeared to faint not far from the stage upon which Trump was speaking. Trump said, "Could we have a doctor, please?" Trump noted the room was about 100 degrees as the supporter received assistance. Trump briefly left the stage and walked down to the crowd before continuing the speech after a few minutes. Why do you think they put that in there? See, everybody faints when it's hot. Everybody faints. Everybody is dehydrated when it gets hot. It's not no big deal what happened to Hillary. That's what you're supposed to conclude on your own. And then the AP story. Trump supporter appears to punch protester at North Carolina rally. Folks, this AP story is almost a satire piece. If you didn't know better, you would think somebody mocking the AP had written this. This is so filled with obvious pro-Hillary, anti-Trump bias. They're not even trying to make it look like it's real journalism. And it's along the lines of the ABC story. They want you to believe it. Everything was fine. Protesters had to be escorted out, and then these mean Trump supporters started beating this guy upside the head, trying to convey the impression that Trump supporters are mad, violent, unhinged, insane white supremacists. In fact, right here in the Washington Post, Dana Milbank, who wouldn't know objectivity if it gave him a French kiss. Headline, yes, half of Trump supporters are racist. Hillary Clinton may have been unwise to say half of Donald Trump supporters are racist and others deplorables, but she wasn't wrong. If anything, when it comes to Trump's racist support, she might have lowballed the number. And then he quotes what happened at Trump speaking to National Guard Association and so forth. I continue to maintain that there is panic on the Democrat side. Now, I know they're trying to make it look like Hillary's health problems are common, like everybody gets pneumonia. In fact, it's so common, practically everybody on the staff has a strain of it. Poor old Robbie Mook's got it. Bill Clinton's out there saying, hell, it just happens to her all the time. She falls on her face half the time. I mean, this is nothing new. He tried to help He's trying to help her out, but he made it look really even worse. He's talking to Charlie Rose. In fact, let's go to those sound bites. Grab number 4. This last night on CBS Evening News, they played a preview of last night's interview with Clinton and Charlie Rose. And in this clip, Charlie Rose says, is what happened that she got dehydrated? Because when you look at her collapse in that video, we wonder if it's not more serious than dehydration.
Well, if it is, it's a mystery to me and all of her doctors. Rarely, but on more than one occasion over the last many, many years, the same sort of things happened to her when she just got severely dehydrated. She's worked like a demon, as you know, as Secretary of State and as a senator and in the years since.
Oh, yeah. She works like a demon out there. Where she's Secretary of State, and she was a senator. She just worked like a demon out there, just got dehydrated. Who gets dehydrated sitting behind their desk? The Green Bay Packers played the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday afternoon. The on-field feel-like temperature was over 100 degrees. Now there, you're talking dehydration. Now they deal with it in the NFL. Players now get IVs before the game. They get IV fluid as part of the pregame meal. In fact, that's become standard at a Super Bowl, even when the Super Bowl is played in a climate-controlled place. Even in a dome, the players will get IVs even before kickoff. I've also got a story here that says Hillary refuses to drink water. That you can really get in trouble if you're on her staff and you suggest she drink water. She hates it. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why, but she doesn't apparently like water. Now, I thought, frankly, water was something you couldn't do without and stay alive. But maybe she's like hot sauce. Maybe she's a vampire. Maybe she's one of those bloodsuckers out there that doesn't need water. Do we ever really see her in the daytime? Look what happened when we saw her in the daytime on Sunday, the 9/11 thing. Look what happened. Sunglasses. By the way, those sunglasses, have you seen those dark blue shade? Here's another thing. You can't stop this stuff from happening. You got all these supposed experts out there, and many of them doctors are weighing in. Apparently, because the sunglasses are so ugly, but there's nothing fashionable about them, some experts are saying that they're anti-seizure sunglasses, that they work by restricting certain frequencies of light. And so they block out certain colors, the spectrum, and it ostensibly helps with seizures. Whatever. It didn't look good. And she was the only one wearing shades. In any picture that you saw that was a group photo. And Clinton himself in this bite doesn't sound all that strong. Did you hear his voice? I have bouts of hoarseness. I mean, I'm first to admit it. Can't hide it. Don't try to. But listen to the next bite. This is Charlie Rose saying, well, is what happened as she got dehydrated? Because when you look at her collapse, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. CBS cleaned up a mistake that Clinton made. Wait a minute. We got to go back and play number 4 again because I'm looking here at 4A. This is the same thing. But there's one word that, let me, okay, hang on here a minute. Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out which is which. Okay, look, here, play cut 4. You know what the question is. Let's listen.
Well, if it is, it's a mystery to me and all of her doctors. Rarely, but on more than one occasion over the last many, many years, the same sort of things happened to her when she just got severely dehydrated.
Okay.
She's worked like a demon, as you know, as Secretary of State. And
I done got it. That is what they aired. In the full interview, which is not what they aired, you see it on their website. In the full interview, he says it happens frequently. And here is the full interview that they edited You're going to hear something in the first line here that you didn't hear in the bout you just heard.
Well, if it is, it's a mystery to me and all of her doctors, because rarely, but on more than one occasion over the last many, many years, the same sort of things happened to her when she just got severely dehydrated.
Right. So here's what happened. In the original interview, Clinton said what you just heard him say. Well, it's a mystery out there. I mean, to me and all her doctors, because frequently, well, I mean, not frequently, it's rarely. Rarely, that's what I meant to say. But on more than one occasion. They cut that out in the broadcast version. They helped Clinton clean it up. So in the broadcast version, well, if it is, it's a mystery to me and all her doctors. Rarely, but on more than one occasion over the last many years, same sort of thing. He actually said, cause frequently, well, not frequently, but that's not a rarely. And that's where he stepped in it. He says it's frequent. And they edited it out. It reminds me, in the 2004 campaign, CBS was interviewing John Kerry, and he did so badly, they let him do a do-over. His answers to the questions he's being asked were so atrocious that they let him do it again. And here they're editing Clinton to make it look less damaging to Hillary. But even at that, you hear his voice. And his voice is not strong in any way, shape, manner, form. Then you got Cokie Roberts over here. This is the second day that this story's had legs. NPR Morning Edition. Journalist and author Cokie Roberts indicated that many of the establishment Democrats may be getting antsy over the renewed speculation of Hillary's health. It's taking her off the campaign trail, Cokie Roberts said yesterday morning. But as for members of the Democrat Party, it has them very nervous. They're beginning to whisper about her stepping aside and finding another candidate. And then the Politico, former DNC chairman, calls for Clinton contingency plan. That'd be Don Fowler. Don Fowler headed the DNC in 1995 to 1997 during the Bill Clinton presidency. So, look, I maintain that the things I mentioned to you yesterday are still true and operative. This is day 2 that she's not doing fundraisers out in California. I think it's much more serious. And this pneumonia is a convenient thing. But they could have announced this a couple of days before they did. And they could have used that as an excuse for making the deplorables comment. They could have gotten her out of a lot of messes. But here's the big thing. And we noticed it too yesterday, talked about it then. She nearly collapses. She looks unable to move, getting in that van after having left the 9/11 event. I mean, it's bad. She looks like she's seizing and is unable to walk on her own power. She tries to get in the van and just collapses. And they basically prop her up the armpits and then they shove her in there, as it was stated, like a side of beef. Somebody said that, not me. Just threw her in there. And then they made the decision not to go to the hospital. Why didn't they go to the hospital? They didn't want anybody at an emergency room to find out what's really wrong. They didn't want to be put in a position of having to trust ER doctors that they don't know. I mean, after all, it's a Democrat nominee. It's Hillary Clinton. Even though it's New York, you can't be sure there won't be somebody in there who is not a Hillary supporter, will find out what's going on and leak it to someplace. So they made the decision that keeping her out of the ER, subordinating her health, was preferable. Keeping her at greater risk was a greater thing politically to do, more sensible political thing to do than take her to the hospital. That tells me this is much more than pneumonia. For all it is pneumonia. Okay, so she's got pneumonia. She fell from it. She got an attack. She got weak. You go to the ER. If she's dehydrated, give her a couple IVs, send her on her way. If all it is pneumonia, the ER will confirm it, and that's that. It's obviously not pneumonia. It's obviously not just pneumonia. I should not say obviously. I'm not a doctor. But it looks, folks, very much like it's more than that. And I really do have great concern for her. This is, whatever it is, like we said yesterday, it just could be, she could be a person that doesn't age well. And I don't mean looks. I'm talking to some people, they just get old fast. It just depends on so many things. It could be that she's got something far greater wrong than pneumonia. It could be a neurological disease. I mean, they've announced she's on these blood thinners. She's had concussions. Who knows? But the fact that they wouldn't take her to the hospital because they couldn't run the risk that somebody there would find out what's really wrong. So they must have a hell of a medical setup in Chappaqua, because that's where she went after she left her daughter's ER room. She went back up to the Chappaqua family estate. They must have a pretty well-stocked medical facility in their house if they've made the decision they just can't take her to hospitals. Stop and think about that just in and of itself. He's a Democrat candidate for president who can't take her to a hospital for fear of what might be learned there. Brief, obscene profit timeout. We are coming back. We never really end here. We just take little pauses. Back to the phones we go. People patiently waiting. We appreciate it. Claire in Akron, Ohio. Welcome. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Rush. How are you doing today?
I'm excellent. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, I've got two comments. I was just starting out with one, but I wanted to say real quickly. First of all, with Hillary, everybody's missing the big picture. They're happy to pin it on a health problem because she truly is wearing out. And she's proving what Donald Trump has said, that she cannot do this job, but it's because of her health. This has run the dog out of her. And I believe that it is just exhaustion. And they can't say that.
Wait, hold it a minute. Why are they happy to pin it on her health if she's wearing out?
Because that can at least be explained away. If you're going to be the president of the United States, you can't be taken, well, you can because Barack does it, but you have to be working every day. It's like Donald Trump is superhuman. That man, you just don't ever see him taking a day off ever. And she can only work every couple of days and has to have a long weekend. And it's just like they've coddled her all along, but the chips are down. And I don't think she can handle it because she's not fit health-wise to handle it. That was one comment. And then I have another comment and a suggestion. Real quickly, going back to the NFL, I wanted to say these players, they need to understand that, yeah, they're season ticket holders, but there's a lot of people that are going to these games that are spending money they might not even have, but they want to go see their teams play. The people want to go and enjoy football. We don't really care what their political stance is on anything. And I feel like, we're paying a lot of money to go see them, so just shut up and do your job. And if Roger Goodell had an ounce of chutzpah, he would say, and I'm coming from a conservative point of view here and kind of tongue-in-cheek, but let's make the NFL our safe zone. Let's say we cannot do this because all of the people need to be protected. This is our safe zone. We can go escape for a few hours and not be harmed by liberal points of view, and these kind of stances. It's just ridiculous.
Well, look, I had a monologue. In fact, we had a soundbite yesterday that was I had it available to replay, and I didn't get to it. Cookie, get me that. Get that to Mike. It'll dovetail nicely with what you said. I just want to warn you, though, Claire, it's only going to get worse because all the attention these players are getting doing this. I saw a story, 12-year-olds. A 12-year-old high school team is now taking a knee or refusing to stand for the national anthem. This is only going to get worse. You're going to see it happening with even greater frequency because the players are getting all kinds of attention for this, for things other than playing football. We've got somebody else who was at the Asheville rally, the Trump rally in Asheville last night. This is Ed in Hendersonville, North Carolina. Hi, Ed. How are you?
Hey, Rush. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet, sir.
Yeah, I was there last night, and the amazing thing when we came out of the rally is that they had taken down all of the barricades so that we were immediately within 5 feet of the door. We were being accosted by the protesters there, and they were just screaming at us, holding signs, as that lady previously had mentioned. And I actually was near the guy that I believe was the one you mentioned that had hit a protester. He was probably in his mid-60s, and he was with his wife. Not quite sure why he hit them, but I could say that the things that were being yelled at us as we had to pass through the crowd, there was no other way to get out. He very well could have just been protecting her honor. I'm not quite sure what the reason was.
How many protesters were at this event? Outside, when you left, how many would you say were there?
Oh, there was, minimum 150, maybe 200 or more. There was quite a few. And when we first got there actually was a barricade, so we had to stand in line to wait to get in, and the whole time they're just screaming at us. And everyone around me, nobody responded back to them. Nobody said anything back to them. We stood in line, we smiled, we moved through, and the volunteers tried to keep us separated from them. But coming out, it was like it was like we were in a cattle chute. We just had to go immediately through them, and it was bad. It was, I mean, I could see where an elderly person or someone with a child would be scared, afraid.
Well, but that's the only incident of violence that you know about when the guy you think we're talking about here walloped a anti-Trump protester. That was it, right?
That was the only one I was aware of. I was right near him. Actually, a cop stopped me thinking I might have been involved in it.
So see, that's my point. Here you had a place that filled up 7,000 people, and you have whatever number of protesters were there. And everybody inside had a great time. It was a typical Trump rally. It was filled to the rafters. It was overflowing. I have seen a photo of inside. The media will not show you this. The media, even when Trump tries to shame them, they will not show you the inside of these arenas. They will not show you. That's why the Trump campaign has to tweet these things out themselves. Anyway, so you had the 7,000 people there. You had Trump bringing up people that are Hillary's calling deplorable, announcing that they're not, showing that they're not, demonstrating that they're not. And you have this one incident where something provoked a Trump supporter to wallop some Trump protester upside the head, and that's the story. That becomes a story. Could well be the Trump supporter was a foil anyway. Could well be the Trump supporter's a plant. You'd never know. But I'm telling you, these things are not organic. And when I say not organic, I mean, whatever number of people were there, those 150, they didn't show up just because Trump is there and 7,000 people are there and they're fit to be tied. They're paid. They're organized. They are dispatched. They're bought and paid for by people like George Soros. Black Lives Matter is being funded to the tune of tens of millions of dollars by Soros, for example. I don't know what group dispatched these people. I just know this is how the left operates. Everything is manufactured. And they get away with it because the press, media's on their side. So the media reports it as, oh, look at this. Donald Trump showed up, and people who naturally hate his guts because they showed up and let everybody know what a reprobate we all think Trump is. That becomes the tenor and the flavor of the story. And in that regard, that way they're able to avoid reporting in any detail what happened at the rally. And they don't go talk to people at the rally who had a great time and were moved by it. They simply focus because they've got this meme going. They've got this narrative going that Trump supporters are a bunch of white supremacists with sympathies to the KKK. So here comes some 60-year-old guy barreling out of the rally and starts knocking some innocent flower child of the Trump protesters upside the head, and they get their story. And they run with it. ABC and the Associated Press at the same time. But you notice, folks, the scope of this program. Here we've had two people already who were at that event last night who've called in to tell us what happened and they saw. We're everywhere without having to actually go there. Ba-doo, 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 ba-doo. Okay, we had our caller bottom of the hour. Forget her name, mental block. She was describing the effect all these players protesting and they end up having on her. Hey, we don't want to see it. That's not where we're watching. You're going to destroy it. Ratings are down opening night this year versus last year. It's only got Claire and Akron. That's where it was. Okay, good. And I told her that I had made similar comments. This all the way back on August 30th. This was shortly after Kaepernick first pulled the stunt. And this, I think, was the next day or 2 days later. This is my take on all of this.
I just want to say something to you players of the National Football League. The American people love your sport. And the American people respect you who have the unique human ability to play it at the level you play it. But the American people are not going to sit by idly and watch the stage of the National Football League stolen and used for personal political purposes. Now, you players in the NFL, you can go ahead and try to continue stealing the stage of the NFL if you want. You can take the example of Kaepernick, and you can try to get some news coverage. You can draw attention to yourself, but you run the risk of obliterating the stage on which you perform that earns you your living and gives you the opportunity to succeed beyond your wildest dreams. You better be careful in what and how you express your thoughts on this country. Greatest place in the history of mankind, and the residents of this country are among the luckiest in the history of all humanity. The National Football League is on TV. It can easily be turned off. The National Football League is sponsored by beer and cars and soft drinks that can easily be not purchased. Not that hard. Just turn it off. You better be especially careful because the opening weekend of the National Football League this year is the 15th anniversary of 9/11.
That sounds perfectly reasonable, right? Now, I know what some of you are saying. Wait a minute, Rush. Are you saying that just because they're athletes and players, they ought to shut up about their political beliefs? Not at all. I'm saying don't do it on the NFL stage. Do it on ESPN when they're interviewing you after the game. Do it on ESPN when you're doing. But to take over the game and to turn the game into a political stage, you're stealing the stage that the NFL built. You're a temporary occupant of this stage, relevant and highly talented and all that. But this wasn't even really intended as criticism as much as it was guidance. You know, I don't know. I really don't know how many people understand the whole concept of compensation. Why do people make what they make, and where does that money come from? You realize how many people think jobs are for health care? You'd be stunned if you had young people today. You ask them, why is there an XYZ widget company in your town? Because they're there to provide jobs for the community and provide health care. Really? That's why the XYZ widgets company is there? Go ask your average NFL player, where does a team get the money to pay you? Hey, I don't know, dude. Doesn't matter to me. All I know is my contract's guaranteed the first couple of years. But I'm seriously, where do they get the money? Well, I'm sure they get it from the TV and I get the sponsors and so forth. But that's not my problem. Yes, it is. And the more money you make, the more you had better be intimately aware of how it gets to you. It obviously matters a lot to you. Maybe a bit of an off-the-wall statement here, but I dare say if more people understood compensation, how they or anybody else gets paid, people would be earning a lot more than they are. But that is for another time. Well, that's it, my friends. Another exciting excursion into broadcast excellence has now come to a screeching temporary halt. Now, we didn't get a chance here to pay much attention to it. There has been a congressional hearing, another one on Hillary's emails and server, and apparently it has, what's the word? It not devastating, but It's had some serious news made during the course of it. We'll have expert details tomorrow. That'll be me. And sound bites from it and put it all in perspective for you. So we'll see you then. Adios.